Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to the Winning Drive podcast. I'm Reeta Hubbard, the NFL chick, co-host of the Glenn and Reeta show on 105.7 The Fan. Of course, with my guy, Cordell Woodland from Shaking It Up Sports and the Ravens reporter for 105.7 The Fan. And a lot going on, Cordell. There's a coaching carousel that continues to grow as openings continue to come about in the NFL. But before we talk about that, I just wanted to congratulate Lamar Jackson. He was voted as the AFC Player of the Month by the National Football League. And if you're a PFF person, Pro Football Focus, and you like their work, he was also named their MVP of the year. So quick thoughts on that, Cordell.
Yeah, I mean, getting recognized, I don't think that'll be where it ends. You mentioned Pro Football Talk giving him giving him the MVP of the year. I think he was also a first team All Pro for PFF this year as well.
And LPA voted
right.
him first team All Pro. This was their second year of doing that. So yes,
voted team MVP by the local media. It was unanimous. So we all voted for Lamar. So I think it's just the beginning of award season for him, as I anticipate him getting the league MVP. I don't know if it'll be unanimous, but I expect him to win league MVP. I think he'll be an All-Pro, even though that one will be a little closer than probably some of the other awards we'll see, depending on who people like. You got people like Tua, who's been good this year, Purdy, Dak. So I am curious to see what the league decides to do with the All-Pro voting when it comes to the quarterback position.
Same. So for now, he continues to get the accolades, and it feels like that he's one step closer to potentially getting the league MVP. So we'll see how that goes. Bunch of coaches openings for now that have happened, and there has been a couple more openings that we've seen on Thursday. Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots decide to part ways. And then we learned on Wednesday that the Seattle Seahawks and their head coach, Pete Carroll, have decided to, move on, even though Pete Carroll will potentially be a front office type of dude. We know that there's the Tennessee Titans, Carolina Panthers, Washington Commanders, LA Chargers, and Atlanta Falcons. Also, the Raiders as well. Also, because they have the interim tag on Antonio Pierce, also are looking for head coaches. So this is what we know thus far. And this is according to our good friend Sarah Ellison. She posted that Mike McDonald has been requested for the Tennessee Titans job, the Carolina Panthers job, and the Washington Commanders job. Todd Monken has been tied to requests from the LA Chargers and the Carolina Panthers. And Anthony Weaver, the assistant head coach, is tied to the Atlanta Falcons and the Washington Commanders. So, Commanders, your Commanders, because I always got to put that out there. They tried hard to take some people from up 95 north, it appears. But I'm curious to know how this is going to work with two more openings in terms of Seattle and in terms of New England. Now, we could probably phase out New England potentially because Mike Vrabel, I think it's safe to say that he'll be the favorite to go to New England because of the ties that he has there. But Seattle, to me, is a wild card that I just didn't see happening. So, that's a lot. And we talked about this, how focused would they be right now with all of these openings? I don't think I've ever seen so many openings. I believe a quarter of the league, 1/4, has openings for head coaching positions. So you got to feel like that there's strength in numbers here, and that one of these guys, at minimum, will be exiting out of Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, you do kind of get that feeling that somebody's going to go. I think the Patriots job, like you mentioned, is a weird one. You mentioned Vrabel. He's probably the top candidate externally. Internally, Gerard Mayo is there. I keep seeing that, they're very intrigued by him. Don't really know who to think of for that Seattle job right now. I mean, that was kind of one of those unexpected openings.
Yeah.
But all in all, when it comes to the Ravens coordinators, like, and we talked to Harbaugh on Wednesday about it, and he acknowledged that this is kind of what happens. This is what comes with being a part of one of the best teams in the league, and this is the time of every coach wants to be a head coach. I mean, more times than not, they would like to be a head coach at least once. And he was very adamant that he doesn't think it'll be a distraction for this time of year, because when they do these interviews, it's usually either late at night or on the weekends. It's not cutting into the time that they already have preordained for this current team. I really don't know which one of these guys goes, if any of them. I mean, I think if we're talking about all three, the two coordinators and Anthony Weaver, I think Weaver for sure, like if he gets an opportunity to get a head coaching job, he's gone. I really do believe that. It's no secret that he has wanted to be a head coach for a while now. So if given the opportunity and actually offered a job, I could see him being on the first ticket out. Monken is a little different for me. I think, I'm not saying that I don't think Todd Monken wants to be a head coach, but I do have a hard time thinking that he wants to be one and done in Baltimore.
That's what I think the same thing, Cordell. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I wonder the same thing. Like, he just got to Baltimore. Do you wonder that maybe he just kind of wants to get his footings back in terms of what the NFL is? Because he's been in the college level for a couple of years now. So maybe he just wants to, if the Ravens chip, or if they don't chip, maybe he wants the opportunity to try to do it again next year. If they do chip, he wants the opportunity to repeat. So I agree with you in that sense. Like, I do think it's a little premature in terms of Todd Monken.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you said, I think there's more that he wants to do with this team. I mean, as good as this team has been this year, I still think that there are things that they would like to do offensively that they haven't been able to do to this point.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that he, nobody can't pry him out of Baltimore. They could, if anybody can leave for the right price, the right opportunity. But he's the one that I'm probably like I could definitely see him fighting it off for another year. You mentioned him in Georgia. I mean, he could have left Georgia after the first national championship, and he didn't, so the fact that he stuck around and waited for the right opportunity for him to come back to the pros, I don't think he's just going to up and go. That's kind of my thinking. Mike Macdonald, I've gone back and forth with him. He has been back at the pro level. I mean, he was already at the pro level before he went to Michigan, but he's been back.
Yeah, he's the linebackers coach for the Ravens.
Years.
So he turned around and went to Michigan.
Yeah. Exactly. So he's been back for 2 years now in this D coordinator role. He's got his feet wet. I feel like he's clearly comfortable in that role. And with as good as this defense has been this year, Triple Crown winner. I mean, obviously the last thing they have to do is to go win the championship, and that'll kind of be the cherry on top. But I don't know what more Mike Macdonald has to achieve on just solely the defensive side. I don't know what else he can do. He's kind of done everything that you can possibly do as a coordinator outside of the total team accolade. So he's one that I could see going, but I don't think he's just going to up and go. Like, I don't think he's in a hurry to go to Carolina or something like that. I don't think that's the situation that'll move him. I do think it'll have to be something that he deems worth his while. Not every head coaching gig is going to be better than the situation he currently has in Baltimore. And I think he understands that. So, I don't think he's in a situation where he has to go right now. I think he'll be perfectly fine if he did stick around in Baltimore for another year. I don't see the defense falling off a cliff. No. So unless that happened, I think he can come back again next year and they're just as good. And maybe a better opportunity comes, because there are some good opportunities out there right now for head coaching jobs. But if they give them to somebody else and all you got left are, the Panthers and the Titans and teams like that, it's like, why would I even really want to put myself in that situation, especially in Carolina, where they have shown they have no type of patience for a head coach to come in there and give them the time to really turn things around. So, I get everybody is kind of nervous right now, because it seems like every day we're seeing a new report of another team requesting to interview one of the Ravens coaches. But I always go back to that 2019 year where Roman won coordinator of the year, and he and Wink were both getting these head coaching interviews and stuff like that. And neither of them went anywhere. And ended up kind of, mutually parting ways from the Ravens. But, we didn't think that both coordinators would be back after that 19 season, yet they were.
Yeah, I agree. My favorite thing right now on the internet is people like making up stories about Mike Macdonald to try to get teams to not, go for him. Even Marlon Humphrey's sister got into it, saying that, he called their mother a bald-head scallywag and all these other things. So that just says a lot about how the Ravens flock feels about Mike Macdonald's the potential departure, and how much people love and respect what he does here. So it will be interesting to see how these things move as we get into the playoffs and as we start to see more openings get closed moving forward. All right, Cordell. So we have Super Wildcard weekend coming up from Saturday to Monday. 6 games will be played, and we'll start to see a better idea of what the playoff picture will be in the divisional round, particularly for the Baltimore Ravens. So, first game up is the Browns going to Houston to play the Texans. Now, we know that the last time they played, it was basically it was just an unhinged game. The Browns dominated that game. However, CJ Stroud did not play. They had Case Keenum playing in that game due to, I believe he had a concussion at that time. Stroud did. So do you see this going differently this time? Do you think that the Browns squeaked their way out?
I could definitely see it going differently. They're a different team when CJ Stroud is there. I mean, he and Case Keenum are polar opposites of each other right now.
For obvious reasons.
Right. I think Nico Collins is a stud, and I think when he's playing with CJ Stroud, you get a totally different monster than the one that you're going to get with anybody else. I love what they do offensively from the run game with Devin Singletary, who's been really good for them, finally getting the opportunity to run the ball, because when they were in Buffalo, they were reluctant to hand it to him. The only way he got it was in the passing game. So it's good to see him show the ability to be a true running back in between the tackles. Outside, he could do it all. I love that receiving group. Obviously, the loss of Tank Dell hurts them this time of year, but Nico's been really good. I think Dalton Schultz has been really good for them. So they got some veteran guys out there too, Robert Woods and some of those guys that just come through and get some of those in between catches, some of those third down plays to move the chains. I just like what they do as an offense. Don't love them as much as a defense. Definitely love Cleveland's defense more, but yeah, I'm picking Houston in this game, but obviously it won't surprise me if Cleveland wins again.
Yeah. I just don't love their run defense of the Houston Texans. I don't love it at all. And that is why I think the Browns find a way to get out of this with a win. But I would like to be proved wrong here. You already know that I feel like that the matchup against the Browns is problematic, in my opinion, to the Ravens. So spot the Ravens one if you can, Houston, and beat them this time with CJ Stroud and Nico Collins, if you will. The Miami Dolphins going to Kansas City, the reunion of Tyreek Hill, as we know that he was traded from Kansas City to Miami. It is going to be devastatingly cold out there. I keep hearing -10. I saw somebody say -30. I don't even know if -30 is a thing. Not in America anyway. Maybe in Canada. I think y'all embellishing a little bit, but it's going to be really, really, really cold in Kansas City. And look, nobody wants to play in that type of cold. However, Kansas City's used to it. And so, yes, thank you, Spencer. It's not the actual degrees. It is the wind chill. I still ain't never heard no -30 wind chill in America. That's all I'm trying to say here. Somebody lying. All right. It's going to be cold, though, but not that cold. But
Right.
-10 is cold enough. -10 wind chill is already cold. Like, y'all ain't got to make it worse than what it already is. So, do the Finns find a way out of here, or do they freeze their tails off and they go home?
The more I talk about this game, the more I feel like I'm talking myself into believing that the Dolphins are going to steal this game.
Really?
It's crazy. Despite the cold weather, despite their road woes, despite them barely being able to beat anybody with a plus 500 record, despite them dealing with some injuries, a lot of injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that has caused them to kind of go to the old folks home and bring out guys that like Justin Houston, Bruce Irvin, and who's the Melvin Gordon, and they're really not Melvin Gordon. What's who am I thinking of? I forget the other edge rusher. But
yeah. So Melvin Ingram.
Melvin Ingram. That's who I'm thinking.
They got a lot of, so they got like Melvin Ingram, Justin Houston, Bruce Irvin. Look, if this was 5-6 years ago, that'd be a nasty dynamic group, but it's not. It's 2024. So I don't know how this is gonna go for them.
No. And so I mean, it's a lot of reasons to not pick the Dolphins. It's tough for me to envision the Chiefs being one and done in the postseason, especially losing at home in these elements. But I just can't get over the fact that I can't trust these Chiefs wide receivers. I can't. And unless Kansas City is going to make a true commitment to letting Isaiah Pacheco lead them to the win, and it's possible, but they can't help but put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands. And it's not like Mahomes is the one killing them. It's the guys he's throwing the ball to. That includes Travis Kelce. I don't believe Travis Kelce is playing at a high level right now. He's struggling to beat double teams. He's not moving very quick, not moving very fast these days. I think it could come down to something as simple as the Dolphins wide receivers catching the ball and the Chiefs wide receivers not catching the ball.
I completely agree.
And I can see the Dolphins stealing it.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna I can't count out Patrick LeVon Mahomes because at the end of the day, he is still the reigning Super Bowl champion. And yes, that their wide receiving core is not a threat at all. However, I just can't count him out.
Right.
And I just feel like that weather is going to be a factor here. Tyreek been 2 years removed from this type of weather, so he ain't gonna go back to it and just be like, "Oh, I'm used to it." Nobody ever gets used to wind chills of -10 degrees.
Right.
I don't care who you are. Okay, so I am going with the Chiefs. Steelers at Bills. Bills are 10-point favorites, which I find highly disrespectful. But the fact that this is a Ravens podcast means I actually don't care. Okay, I just want to put that out there. While I find it to be egregious, I'm not going to argue for it.
No, I mean, I don't think the Bills will cover that 10, if I'm being honest. I would be shocked if they end up beating the Steelers by 10 plus points. Not because I think the Steelers are that good, but it's supposed to be crazy weather out there as well. Pittsburgh's not afraid of that weather. Honestly, I think they embrace ugly weather games. I know, no TJ Watt. But even still, I think that the Steelers can play ball control against the Bills, especially if they're going to get some turnovers from Josh Allen. That could really come back to bite them, because the Steelers have made a killing over the last couple of weeks during this 3-game win streak of time of possession. They're just grinding you out, and they're running the ball 30 plus times a game, holding the ball, and actually able to finish some of these drives with points. So that's going to put pressure on Buffalo to not only score, but also take care of the football. And so I'm picking the Bills to win. I am going to pick the Bills to win, but I do think that Pittsburgh is going to make this a game.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to be 10-point. I don't think it's a 10-point deficit. I agree with you. Look, they play near water too. The Steelers do. They, they literally had a stadium called Three River Stadium because they play on the water. So they're used to this type of weather. This is not something that's out of the realm for them being in Western Pennsylvania, which is very close to what it is that they have in Buffalo as well with the lakes. But no TJ Watt definitely to me plays a part into what the Steelers can't do, particularly on defense. And that's always going to be, to me, I don't necessarily say a deciding factor because I was going to pick the Bills anyway, but I think that they have a better chance of winning the football game if TJ Watt is there being destructive, and he's not. So, I don't think that they'll win. I agree with you. I still don't think, I think that 10 points is a lot. But ultimately, I think that the Buffalo Bills will find a way to move forward into the divisional round. Up next, we got Packers and Cowboys. Mike McCarthy gets to play his old team. They are 7.5-point underdogs, the Packers are. And so we know that the Cowboys have been undefeated at home in 2023 against a very young Packers team. I'm curious to know how you see this going.
Yeah, of course. With every fiber in my body, I hate the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, we know.
That said, I got to put my analyst hat on. I got to pick them to beat the Packers. Packers are a young team. I don't know if Christian Watson plays in this game. Even if he does, I don't know what he'll look like. He was really good before he got hurt. But they've had guys like Jaden Reed step up. Romeo Dobbs has been really good. I mean, that Packers offense has been moving at times. The defense has played well as of late. But going to Dallas is a different monster. Dallas is scoring like close to 40 points a game at home. They play with a ton of confidence when they're at home. So I think Dallas wins this game. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised if they kind of blow the Packers out.
Just be ugly for the Packers. They're a young football team. I think they're one of the youngest teams in the National Football League. So I think that for me, sometimes when you're young and you get into the playoffs, you got to take your lumps. And that's what's going to probably happen here. I think that Dallas wins this. It's interesting that the Bills get 10-point favorites against the Steelers, which they're coached by Mike Tomlin, a very good football team, but the Packers only get a 7.5. They're only 7.5 underdogs. This is the one I think might be, the 10, but what do we know here?
I mean, and look, Dallas defense hasn't been as great down the stretch of the season. So I think that may be where Vegas thinks, because the Packers have been able to put up points over the last couple of weeks. So I think that they're kind of anticipating this potentially being a shootout.
For sure. Rams at Lions, and we get to see the quarterback switch. So we know that Jared Goff and Matt Stafford were switched for each other's opposite teams currently. And so Jared Goff has a chip on his shoulder. He has not forgotten what's happened to him. So I'm curious to see how this goes. I have the Rams as my dark horse team. And so I'm curious to see what you think about that.
No, I like the Rams a lot. I like the Rams a lot. I'm picking the Rams to win this game. And like you, they are definitely a dark horse team. If there's a wild card team that I'm a pick to potentially come out of the conference, it would be them. They're playing at a high level right now. Matthew Stafford, the way that he played this year and really during the second half of the season, I mean, he should be a potential MVP candidate. I don't think he should win it, but I would not be upset if anybody said they wanted to throw Matthew Stafford's name in the MVP conversation. He's been that good. Puka Nacua has been amazing for them. And it's so dangerous because Cooper Kupp, for the totality of the season hasn't been Cooper Kupp. Still been good, but not Cooper Kupp good. So to have Puka Nacua there and have him doing the things that he did in his rookie year, I mean, they are tough to stop. And you mentioned you combine that with the run game that they have right now. I mean, they are clicking on all cylinders on the offensive side. I think their defense is good enough. I think the loss of Sam Laporta will be huge for Detroit in this game. As much as I appreciate Jared Goff keeping his head down, helping turn that Lions team around, I'm rooting for him because people have been ready to throw Jared Goff away since the Rams drafted him. So I'm definitely rooting for him, but I think the Rams are just hot right now. I think they win that one.
Completely agree. They are hot, dog, and you know how I feel about Puka. That dude is dangerous. He's top 5 in receiving yards, and he's only a rookie. So that's just a dangerous team when they are playing well. And the Monday night game, Eagles and Bucks. We talked about this on Wednesday on the Glenn and Reeta show / Shaking It Up Sports collab show.
Right.
I actually got bored by this matchup. I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what Baker Mayfield I'm going to get. I don't know what Eagles team I'm going to get. This has bipolar written all over it. And I don't know what team is going to be what come Monday. So just because I said that I'm bored, watch it be the game of the week. Just because.
It could be. I mean, you got two offenses that can be explosive, but has more times than not, especially as of late, they've been pretty dry. And look, the Bucks, Baker's a little nicked up right now coming out of that Panthers game. I do like Mike Evans, obviously. I like Rachaad White. I love Chris Godwin. I like what they're doing offensively. I like what the Bucks can bring to the table defensively. They're pretty solid against the run. We know that's what the Eagles want to do first. So if the Bucks are able to kind of take that run game away from Philly, that'll be huge going forward to force them to have to get one-dimensional. And can Jalen Hurts go out there and make plays? Is he going to start pressing too much? Is it going to be but so long before those guys are on the sidelines cursing each other out? You just don't know. I think the Eagles win this game because I think they're too good to go out there and lose to the Bucks. But it wouldn't shock me if the Bucks, who are a more of a team right now in terms of morale and emotionally and stuff like that, the Eagles seem broken to me right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if just the fact that the Bucks are actually playing together, that alone gets them to win over the Eagles. But I'm gonna take Philly.
I'm taking Philly too. I just think that they're the more talented team. But with the way that they've been playing, I believe they lost 5 of their last 6. It is very hard to count the Buccaneers out because, again, I don't know what Eagle team is going to show up. That's the problem, right? So we're going to see how that goes. But I do think that overall Philly is the more talented team. I'm going to go with the Eagles there. So those are our wild card picks for Super Wild Card weekend. When we come back, we'll take some of your questions, comments, and concerns in our Winning Drive mailbag here on Winning Drive. All right, so we asked you guys to give us your questions, concerns, comments leading into Wildcard weekend as the Ravens wait to see who their opponent is going to be. So first one up, is Kyle Hamilton's injury impacting his play coming back? And I think that that's a better question suited for Cordell, who gets to go see the guys out there practicing. I know that he was out there on Wednesday. So
yeah, he was out there Wednesday. I thought he was moving pretty well. He does have a slight limp to him. He has a slight limp to him, but I watched him run around a little bit. He seemed to do well. He's one of those guys. We're starting to see quite a few of these players who are like somewhat flexible. There is weird that they are able to some kind of sustain some injuries that to some guys we've seen it be like devastating. And for these guys, it's like, yeah, it's a week or two type of situation, and it'll be good enough for them to get back out there and play. So I think Kyle Hamilton will be fine. I don't foresee this injury impacting his ability to not only play in the game, but also impacting his ability to be, a true factor in the game. I don't think he'll be limited. I don't think it'll take away from any of his great skill set. So I think he'll be fine. He'll definitely be playing through some sort of discomfort or even pain if you want to go that far. But I think he'll still be a big chess piece for them.
Yeah, you just got to hope that, if the Ravens advance to the Super Bowl, he's able to play 3 more games.
Mm-hmm.
And, then he can rest for a whole off season and make sure that he's ready for 2024. All right, next question. How concerned are you about the tackles holding up against elite pass rushers? Well, you all know that this has been my concern. One of the funny things, it's not funny, but one of the things that I think that makes Todd Monken, like the wizardry of Todd Monken, like phenomenal, is the fact that for the last month, it feels like he's been rotating tackles. So we've seen Stanley and Moses start, but then eventually you'll see Pat McCarry out there and you'll see Fa'alele out there. And it feels like that's been a recipe that's been beneficial for the Ravens. Everybody knows that I was concerned about the pass rushers down the stretch, and that was something that I had, discussed. But they had passed the test in the last few games after the bye. So, I mean, whatever they've done, it's worked. The interior line has always been, did their part and held up. And the Cleveland game, to me, was the one that I was concerned about the most because you just really allowed Myles Garrett to do their thing. But it does feel like after that game, they started doing this rotation thing, and it's been beneficial for them. So I'm still a little concerned, but you hope that the time off is helpful. And then you hope that the rotation, if it's broke, don't fix it. If it's working, don't stop doing it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think that I'm curious to see what they decide to do going into the postseason, if they continue to do the rotation, and if they do, how much they decide to do it. You look at the AFC, I mean, teams, the Ravens obviously lead the league in sacks at 60, right behind them at 57, Kansas City. So George Karlaftis has been really good this year for the Chiefs. He's actually had a pretty solid season for them. Obviously, we know what Chris Jones can do in the middle. So that's probably a team you got to watch. The Dolphins are 3rd in the league in sacks. Now, a lot of their sack leaders are no longer there.
That's true.
They are bringing in some veteran guys who I don't want to say they have fresh legs, because guys like Houston played a lot this year. But there's a rejuvenation factor there with them joining a postseason roster and now playing in the playoffs. 4th in the league in sacks is Buffalo. So, I'm and then you got Cleveland at 6. And then down there, like around the 10 range, you got Pittsburgh. I just say all that to say that the AFC has teams that know how to get after the quarterback. So it is somewhat of a concern. It's not just the tackle, or it's not just the edge rusher guys. You got to think of the stunts that are ran and the blitzes that come. Teams are just getting to the quarterback by committee these days. So I would say, yeah, it's something you're watching out for. But all in all, like you said, I like the way that they finished the season. I thought, going to San Francisco, kind of doing what they did against those pass rushers, and Lamar having the game that he had against the Dolphins and stuff like that, and the Rams game, and I like the momentum that they have going into the playoffs.
Yeah, me too. And so you really hope that will temper into what they've been able to do down the stretch against opponents that are all winning all guys except the Jags that made the playoffs, quite frankly. So you hope that just continues the trend of them, just the way that they've held up these last few weeks. All right, next question. Would you rather play the Chiefs or the Dolphins in the next round? This is interesting. Well, I'm not. You can't play the Chiefs, so I get because they're the 3 seed.
Right.
So that's not going to happen. So the question is, would you rather play the Dolphins in the next round or Pittsburgh or Cleveland or Houston, I guess, in that regard? But in terms of like who I think is more of a threat to the Ravens between the Chiefs or the Dolphins, I'm still gonna go with the Chiefs, dog. Like, listen, I know what the roster looks like for the Miami Dolphins, and I'm not even talking about the 56-19 win, because it is very possible that Mostert comes back. It is very possible that Waddle comes back. But I'm with you in the sense that they've lost a lot of guys on defense, and it just doesn't, look good in that regard. I just can't take Patrick Mahomes out of any equation. And yes, I know he doesn't have pass catchers that are consistent. I'm very well aware. But I also have to respect the dude that's a two-time MVP, a two-time Super Bowl MVP. Gotta respect it. And I just, at the end of the day, you just don't ever want to sell Patrick Mahomes short, because Tua is a great player, but he's not Patrick Mahomes, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I probably would rather play the Dolphins again. And be careful what you ask for.
That's very true.
I mean, because both of these teams could beat you. The Dolphins, it's very well possible they come into M&T pissed off after getting kicked around last time, possibly more healthier than they were last time. And it could be a different story. Who knows? This is the time of year where one and done. The best team doesn't always win. That's what people forget about playoff football. It's just about that given day. It's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whatever. But yeah, I can't overlook Patrick Mahomes. If you don't have to play him, you probably aren't going to want to play him. It'd be great. I don't think the Ravens are going to put an asterisk next to their Super Bowl if they were to win it and didn't have to play the Chiefs in the postseason. I don't think they'll lose any sleep about that. It's not going to make me think any less of their Super Bowl run if they went all the way and didn't have to play Kansas City. But very rarely does that end up being the case. You just usually when you end up winning it all, you usually have to go through those guys, those types of teams, the Patriots of the world, the Chiefs now of the world. You usually got to get through those types of teams if you're going to get it. But yeah, you never feel great about having to play Patrick Mahomes in January.
Never, ever, ever, ever. So there's that part of it. Last one, what we got? Does the poor defensive play in the fourth quarter concern you two at all? I think that they've gotten better. I think that they've gotten better in the fourth quarter. I do understand the concern. Again, the Cleveland game kind of stands itself out in that regard. But I also think that the offense in that game kind of put them in uncompromising positions. And I don't think that this is the 2022 season where it really became a thing. I do think that it's gotten better. I also understand that the Rams game, because the Rams were able to go down, the field after the Ravens had to go ahead, score, and tie it. But there was also, the game just definitely changed when Kyle Hamilton just wasn't there. So I have to take that into consideration. So I do understand the concern. It's a concern. If on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a 3. I'm just fairly confident that this team is good enough to overcome its adversities more so now than they've been able to do in the past. And I think that they're a focused team, and they know what needs to be done, and they just can't make similar mistakes again.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't want to say I don't have any type of concern, because sure, the Ravens have shown you in the past that they do struggle at times to close teams out. It's been a while. It's been a while since they, kind of scared us like that. The Rams game, yeah, that's probably the last time I could go back to and say that the defense had a little bit of a letdown in the fourth quarter. I just don't even know if I count that as a letdown, though, because they were going up against a really good team, and at times that's what's going to happen. I mean, how many times have we seen in the AFC Championship game with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes going back and forth, and it comes down to whoever has the ball last? Like, sometimes that's the way that the game goes. But all in all, it's truly been a while since the Ravens defense, if you want to just limit it to defense, it's been a while since defensively they've kind of shut down in the fourth quarter. I'm not really putting a lot of stock into that Steelers game in week 18. Really no starters were in there by the time. I mean, Patrick Queen was reluctantly in the game at that point, and that's only due to an injury that brought him back out there. But I don't put a lot of stock into that Steelers game. Before that, if you want to say the Rams won, so be it. But for me, that's one of those games where you're going to have to earn it. It's a good team, a good offense. It's not like they let the Cardinals come and beat up on them in the fourth quarter and make it a game. That'd be a different situation. Puka Nacua made some crazy catches in that fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I thought Stafford made some great throws. Cooper Kupp was great. So those things just happen. But honestly, I think that this defense and this team is so locked in right now, and they need to Lamar needs to coin that phrase, because it's kind of what everybody knows him for right now, is just being locked in. But
locked in. We need a shirt. Locked in.
He really does. He does need a shirt to say that. I'm surprised he hasn't jumped on that. But I think the defense is fine right now. I'd be surprised if they have another fourth quarter meltdown at this point.
I agree. I mean, look, the stakes are too high, and look, this is no disrespect to the opposing teams, because they have a job to do too, which is to adjust. But I think that the Ravens are in a position now where they can definitely adjust. Shout out to Spencer, our producer. Flocked in, he suggested. I like that, actually.
What did he say?
Flocked in.
Oh, flocked in. I see. Yeah, flocked in.
Instead of locked in, flocked in. See how that could have worked out?
Right.
What y'all doing over there? Ravens PR, what y'all doing over there, Lamar people? Y'all got to come up with this stuff and sell it.
This what we're here for.
We're here for it. We're here to give you the tools. Now y'all got to run away with it. So hopefully, if you're listening,
you send that cut to the winning drive.
How about it? Okay, we could afford to have just a little bit of coin if you decide to use flocked in. So we want to thank you all for listening. Thank you all for everyone who came in with questions for our mailbag. We hope that you enjoy Super Wildcard Weekend, and by then we'll have an idea of who the Ravens will play. So on our next episode, we'll talk about who the Ravens will face this weekend. Enjoy the games, and from Cordell to me, this is Winning Drive.